Step one, you're going to ditch the processed convenience food. I know, I love them too. And maybe you don't kick them out of the fun altogether, but processed food for me, AKA rare food, unless it's like a nutrition bar or an organic protein shake, I'll explain rare food in a bit. For this step, I'm considering fast food, vending machines, and yes, your morning drive through the coffee. Step one, you're going to ditch the processed convenience food. I know, I love them too. And maybe you don't kick them out of the fun altogether, but processed food for me is a rare food. Unless it's a nutrition bar or an organic protein shake, I'll explain rare food in a bit. For this step, I'm considering fast food, vending machines, and yes, your morning drive through coffee as processed food. Hate me now, thank me later. I know how much better I feel after giving this stuff up. Here's why we fell into the trap in the first place. Maybe we were trying the healthy thing we saw on Instagram or TikTok and bought all the keto snacks that are literally called a fat bomb. How did they convince us to do that? And then the carnivore diet just means a bunch of Slim Jims, right? Or like beef jerky. Not all jerky is bad, but I have seen quite a few people truly ruin their gut metabolism and brain health doing the extreme version of these diets with all of the snacks and everything. Second, it's about convenience. We don't prepare, so we grab the thing on the way to work or lunch or on the meeting, or on the way home. We just are grabbing things that are convenient. And unfortunately, we're grabbing things that are convenient, that are fast fuel for our body. So if you're tired, it's very convenient to grab something sugary or high in carbs that will give your brain the glucose that it needs to function. So we're grabbing the fastest fuel we can. And thirdly, it's totally somebody else's fault. You say it's for your partner or your kids, and yet you're the one eating it. Or I've also seen this, bestie, I love you. You buy something and then you're mad that you didn't get to eat it. Here's the great news. My bestie's actually talking about fruit. She buys all this fruit for her family and then her son eats it all. And I'm like, hallelujah. That's fantastic. But it's not always that way. It's always the cookies or the ice cream or the chips. And we buy it for other people or we buy it for them, but it's really for us. You can slowly move some of these choices out of your life, or you can radically transform your pantry in one go. It matters what works for you and what you decide with your co-pilots. If you haven't checked out that module, it's called Co-Pilots. It's all about who's supporting you on your journey and what's their position. So if you have a nutritionist, a dietitian, a doctor, a coach, etc., it's a great place to get support because we have to eat, daily. So if it's a choice you make often, having more support will be helpful. At least consider it. You can make these changes to suit your lifestyle and go for longevity. And none of this is about sprint, crash, burn, repeat anymore. Habits that are trainable are sustainable. If you can't train yourself to do it, you won't sustain the habit. I know you can train yourself. I've seen it 100 times. Then we put in the video of the basics, rare foods. How do you ditch the processed food? Trust the process and ditch the process. I love this creepy picture of Ronald McDonald. And because it's a rare food and it does not need to be in my house. Like, kick it out and communicate the boundaries with others to recruit back up. Sorry, not sorry, Ron. I know myself and I know my weak spots. And it kind of looks like Ronald McDonald's trying to like break into your house and like steal something. That's kind of what I feel like processed food does, is like it breaks in through all of the willpower I have, and it starts stealing my brain function, starts stealing my happy moods, it starts stealing my healthy joints. And I refuse to let it in my house. So I choose to not allow myself to buy certain things like cereal. The box will be gone in 2 days. It's not good. I cannot be trusted with cereal. I can't be trusted with ice cream either. That means a boundary with myself before the grocery store and at the grocery store and at the checkout at the grocery store and on the way home from the grocery store. Remember, the highest form of self-love is self-discipline, loving your future self, the needs, more than your current self's wants. You can do it. So here are a couple frameworks that you consider using when you're asking for support in the home. After you've taken your food inventory and you're looking at your food journal, we all know those ultra processed foods that creep into our day that are convenient. Those are the ones we need to let go. I know you know what it is. See if you can not keep it in the house. And having that conversation, I've prepped a lot of clients on how to have that conversation, but if you need to, of course, run it by your therapist or your coach, go for it. So one way is saying, hey, I'm really excited about making some changes for myself. I also know I have a challenge with resisting temptation. Would you be willing to help me with this goal? Or asking, can you support me in not having these things in the house? And then letting them know, you eat whatever you want. I just know myself. This way, you're asking for what you need. You're calling them to their higher motives to help support you, and you're leaving them room to choose whatever they want for their own body and brain. I've seen a lot of clients that want to recruit their husband or recruit their kids on their cause. And while I think that is absolutely wonderful, if they are willing and they're excited about it, go for it. You guys go on a family health journey. I love that. A lot of times it's one person in the relationship that has to start the journey, and there'll be a good influence on the other partner. But making sure you put up a signpost first, hey, this is my plan, I need your support. It's going to create a lot less resistance for you on the back end when you start making changes in your household. So there's that, is asking for what you need, setting that boundary, gaining that support. That way it doesn't come in the house. And you guys can have some conversations on what that looks like. Then after that, you got to find a replacement behavior. You've got to find a replacement food. So decide before you have the craving what you're going to do instead. Sometimes I tell myself I can have the rare food, but only after I do ABC, whether it's squats or push-ups or maybe finishing something on my project. Sometimes I tell myself I can have the rare food, but only after I do ABC. Could be finishing what I'm working on. Could be after I eat all of these vegetables or after I meal prep for the entire week. Then I can have that rare food. But it's like I'm giving myself what I need before I give myself what I want. So it incentivizes me to take the action on my needs. I love it. And most of the time I feel such a higher self-esteem that I decide to not have the rare food in the first place. After I've meal prepped for a whole week, I'm like, I don't even need it. Maybe it was a different need that needed to be filled. So here's some food swaps that I've made as well. So I switched from chips to seaweed snacks, still a little salty, a little crunchy, also great for my brain. Not everybody likes fishy stuff. I love the seaweed snacks. Also, carrots are crunchy, but also sweet. So that's a good swap. I like them with hummus because it gives you a little bit more satiety. I swapped soda for LaCroix, so like bubble water if you'd like, or just water with a flavored like vitamin booster in it because I wanted some kind of flavor happening. And I noticed I liked the fizzy of the soda, but let me swap it for something else. Now, do I want to drink LaCroix all the time? Not necessarily, for a bunch of different reasons that I won't go into on this basic course. But it was a change in the right direction, right? So I traded candy bars in for protein bars. Again, still a little processed, but moving in the right direction, right? I traded frozen yogurt with candy bar toppings on top to Greek yogurt with honey and maybe a little bit of like chocolate shavers. Love that. So I had an answer for a savory craving. I had an answer for a sweet craving and a crunchy craving. I had an answer for a boredom craving. That also means time blocking time to get my nutrition on point. So pack your snacks to take to work to avoid the drive-through. Prep your coffee maker the night before so you don't go through the Starbucks drive-through, and pack your snacks for after work on your way home so you don't pull into those golden arches. So shoo the rare food, recruit back up at home. Then choose your replacement snacks or behaviors and time block time to get those things ready. Set yourself up for success. Trust the process and ditch the process. My journey and the stats. My journey with food and the statistics. I started with sugar. I know it was tough because I was addicted. I had withdrawals, y'all. If you find yourself craving a lot of sugar and carbs, if you've got thrush in your mouth so it looks a little fuzzy, a little bit white, if you're having a lot of lesions or you're having urinary tract infections quite often, bladder infections, a lot of digestive issues, you may have an overgrowth of candida. It's a bug in your gut. It's actually a fungus. Not bad per se. Everybody's got it, but when it is overgrown, it's not so great and it eats sugar and so does cancer. Yep, I went there. So, but I care about you. So I want you to know. And I'm taking a minute to talk about processed sugar. I love fruit. We ain't bashing that. So the average American consumes a significant amount of sugar from processed food. So according to the American Heart Association, adults and young adults consume about 17 teaspoons of added sugar a day. The USDA, a little bit different, reports 34 teaspoons of sugar a day. Guys, that's 500 calories. 500 calories from just added processed sugar. Johns Hopkins reports 22 teaspoons of added sugar a day. So, not that great, but it is important to note that the majority of this sugar that they're talking about comes from ultra processed foods. We're talking 90% of added sugar intake in the US diet comes from ultra processed foods like soft drinks and fruit drinks and desserts. Those are major contributors. So there's also a 2023 review of research, and it recommends consuming less than 25 grams. That's 100 calories of just free sugars, like regular consumable sugars. So that's about 4 or 5 Hershey Kisses. You can think about it that way. So brace yourself. Now you know 25 grams a day is what's recommended for, those extra processed sugars, those rare foods, right? Uh, a Starbucks Grande Caramel Frappuccino. How many grams of sugar do you think it has? 54 to 60 grams of sugar. The grande, not even the big one. That blasts your poor pancreas, messes with a bunch of other hormones, and now your metabolism is wonky and it could be creating insulin resistance. Welcome to the pre-diabetes party. Also, there's quite a bit of research showing that Alzheimer's and things like Parkinson's strongly related to insulin resistance. So for your brain, quit the sugar. I know. I know. Here's a tip though. Just a leisurely 2-minute walk after a meal can also help regulate your blood sugar. So there's that. If you have a rare food, you don't have to beat yourself up like you're murdering your brain. Just move for about 2 minutes. It'll help regulate your insulin levels. But over time, if you're repeatedly having those regular sugar bombs, that's going to mess with your metabolism. And we want to prevent any kind of metabolic disorders that lead to things like Alzheimer's, Parkinson's, worse mental health conditions, and cancer, things like that. So I cut out the sugar. And while I was cranky at first, my mood dipped down a bit. But once the bloating and the muttering from the candida die off, because there are symptoms, I want to prepare you for that. That but those die-off symptoms were then gone. So were my really bad menstrual cramps and my bloating. Every time I ate a vegetable, my brain fog went away. And then all of a sudden I'm like singing in traffic. I'm just in a better mood and I'm allowing people to merge. And I don't care if someone behinds me because I'm being nice. I just hope that their honk is on key to the song I'm jamming to. Then, unfortunately for me, this is just me, I noticed my joints were still hurting and I'd still have a crash in the afternoon. So the next thing I cut out was gluten. Gluten is not the enemy. It's not the enemy. Not everybody has a sensitivity. I'm just really mad that it was gluten. I wanted it to be something else. So I tried other elimination things, but I found that for me, gluten does cause more inflammation, specifically from processed foods like white bread, crackers, things like that, things that I didn't necessarily need in my diet in the first place. So if you're experiencing joint pain or brain fog or bloating, irritability, hyperactivity, you may want to talk to a dietitian or an allergy specialist. Just find out if you have a gluten sensitivity. And I'm grateful I'm not super sensitive. I'm am enough to notice that I feel better without it, which sucks. And I could absolutely go off on the processed savory snacks that are out there that are like a lot of corn based and really cheap oils that are keeping us sick. There's a ton of information out there that you can find. Just know that some of this food is owned and being marketed to you by companies that sold cigarettes. So tobacco companies bought out food companies in the 80s and 90s. And they made our Oreos, our Kraft singles, our Maxwell House coffee, and our Planters peanuts, and they made them hyper palatable, aka addicting, on purpose. So even Ritz crackers and Kool-Aid, and like this is the stuff I grew up on. And so yes, it's nostalgic and it's a little bit heartbreaking. So it's a little challenging to look at, but I'm not here to ruin food for you. I'm not here to bash, all the food for you, but as your coach with information, it's my job and still in my ethics to inform you. And I still love Philadelphia cream cheese and Oreos because Oreo cheesecake, right? So no shame, just applied knowledge. Because knowledge itself isn't power, applied knowledge is power. So the whole point is to listen to your body and be mindful of your mind. When you're eating your regular foods, how do you feel? When you're eating your sometimes food, how do you feel? What's your energy like? What's your mood like? How does your body, your joints feel? When you're eating your rare food, how's your brain function? How's your focus? How's your mood regulation? And then what do you notice when you don't eat those things as well? Just being very mindful and arming yourself with the knowledge that's out there can help you make some different food behaviors.